Hello everyone, today we will be recapping the movie called Snow White. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy. The movie opens with a breathtaking kingdom filled with joy, love, and harmony, ruled by a kind and noble king alongside his beautiful and compassionate queen. The couple longed for a child, and on a fateful winter night, as a heavy snowstorm blanketed the land, their wish came true. A daughter was born to them, and they named her Snow White. The entire kingdom adored the princess, celebrating her birth with songs and dances, expressing their boundless love for her. However, their happiness was short-lived. The queen fell gravely ill, and despite the kingdom's best efforts, passed away, leaving both Snow White and the king heartbroken. For a time, sorrow hung over the castle until one day, a mysterious and enchanting woman arrived from a distant land. The king, captivated by her beauty and charm, quickly fell in love and married her. Yet, behind her mesmerizing appearance, the new queen concealed a dark and selfish heart. She craved power and obsessed over her own beauty above all else. To feed her vanity, the queen created a magical mirror, enchanted to reveal the truth. Every day she would ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror would reply, "My queen, you are the fairest of them all." Content with the answer, she continued ruling without challenge. But her ambitions ran deeper than mere beauty. Using her magic, she instigated a war between the kingdom and its rivals. The king, a valiant warrior, led his army into battle but never returned. Before departing, he gifted Snow White a precious necklace, a token of his love. With his absence, the wicked queen seized full control, forcing the farmers to become soldiers and hoarding the kingdom's wealth for herself. As her reign of terror spread, she reduced Snow White to a mere servant, cutting her hair and locking her away beyond the castle walls, forcing her to clean and maintain the castle. Over time, the people forgot about the beloved princess, wondering if she had ever existed at all. One day, while cleaning the castle, Snow White stumbled upon a young man named Jonathan, who was secretly stealing food from the storage. Shocked, she pleaded with him to stop, suggesting that she could appeal to the queen on his behalf. However, Jonathan scoffed at her idea, explaining that his people were starving and he had no choice but to take food to help them survive. Snow White, moved by his struggle, remarked that the true princess would have given food freely even if the queen refused. Jonathan laughed bitterly and replied, "Oh, Snow White, the princess hasn't been seen in years. No one even knows if she still exists." Before leaving, he warned her, "If you ever see Snow White, tell her to stop thinking and start doing." Unbeknownst to him, he had been speaking to the lost princess herself. Inspired by his words, Snow White gathered her courage and approached the queen, begging her to have mercy on the suffering people. She reminded the queen that the kingdom had once flourished under her father's rule. However, the queen, infuriated by Snow White's defiance, coldly explained that people did not need kindness but hardship, demonstrating her belief by comparing a delicate flower to an unyielding diamond. At that moment, a soldier entered, dragging Jonathan before the queen, accusing him of stealing. Without hesitation, the queen declared that he would be stripped and tied to the city gates, left to suffer in the freezing cold. When Jonathan boldly admitted that he was not just a mere thief, but the leader of the bandits, the queen's judgment grew even harsher. She ordered her soldiers to burn down his home. To this, Jonathan defiantly responded, "I have no home." The queen, determined to make an example of him, commanded that he be tied to the front gate for all to see. Unable to stay silent, Snow White protested, pleading for justice and insisting that there were better ways to handle the situation. Her interference enraged the queen, who warned her never to question her authority again. As the soldiers carried out the punishment, Snow White, unable to watch Jonathan suffer, secretly untied him in the dead of night, allowing him to escape. From her tower, the queen watched, her suspicions growing. That night, she returned to her mirror and asked again, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" To her shock and fury, the mirror responded, "Snow White is the fairest of them all." Consumed by jealousy, the queen devised a sinister plan. She summoned a soldier and ordered him to take Snow White deep into the forest under the guise of picking apples. Once there, he was to kill her, cut out her heart, and place it in a box as proof of her death. As an incentive, she promised to grant him anything he desired. Obeying his queen, the soldier led Snow White into the woods. Unaware of her grim fate, Snow White happily gathered apples, blissfully unaware that her life was about to change forever. The soldier suddenly draws his knife, preparing to kill Snow White. But as she stares into his eyes, she softly asks, "Do you really want to do this? Why?" A pang of guilt strikes his heart. Overcome with pity, he lowers his weapon and tells her to run far away. because the queen wants her dead. Without hesitation, Snow White flees into the dark, eerie forest. The woods are unlike anything she has ever seen. Shadowy trees seem to move, whispering in the wind. She stumbles, her dress catching on branches, and suddenly she falls into an icy stream. She struggles to the surface, gasping for air, and pulls herself onto the muddy shore. Just as she catches her breath, a deer emerges from the darkness. At first she is frightened, but the creature is harmless. She gently offers it a piece of the apple she had picked earlier. As the deer eats, sunlight pierces through the trees, illuminating the once dark forest. Slowly, more animals appear, surrounding her in curiosity and warmth. To her surprise, they begin to guide her through the woods until she reaches a small, cozy cottage. Cautiously, she steps inside and calls out, but no one answers. Exhausted, she notices a row of small beds and, unable to keep her eyes open any longer, collapses onto one. The animals, seeing her shiver, use their tiny paws and beaks to tuck a blanket around her. Meanwhile, the 7 dwarves are on their way home, singing merrily as they march through the forest. However, one of them is different. He cannot speak and is often ridiculed by the others. As they reach their cottage, they discover an unfamiliar figure sleeping in their bed. Shocked, they freeze. Some hide behind furniture, while the last dwarf, lagging behind, finds the door slammed in his face. Mustering his courage, he slowly reopens the door, tiptoes towards Snow White, and gently pulls back her blanket. Snow White stirs and wakes with a start. The dwarves yelp and scramble for cover. But when she sees the silent dwarf trembling, she smiles warmly and extends a hand. Slowly, he mirrors her gesture. She asks, "Can you speak?" He shakes his head. Just then, the others, armed with makeshift weapons, barge in, ready to defend their home. But as they see Snow White's kind demeanor, they relax and one by one introduce themselves. Bashful, dopey, grumpy, happy, sleepy, Sneezy, and Doc. Soon, laughter fills the cottage, and Snow White has found new friends. Back at the castle, the queen, believing Snow White to be dead, confidently approaches her enchanted mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" she asks. But to her horror, the mirror replies, "Snow White is the fairest of them all." Furious, the queen screams and hurls the box meant to contain Snow White's heart across the room. When she pries it open, she finds only an apple. Realizing she has been deceived, she orders the soldiers' immediate arrest. Meanwhile, in the forest, Snow White unexpectedly crosses paths with Jonathan, the bandit leader. They share a heartfelt conversation, and for the first time, Snow White feels understood. As their connection deepens, one of Jonathan's fellow bandits interrupts, warning them of soldiers nearby. Soon, the entire group of bandits emerges from hiding, weapons at the ready. The queen's soldiers march into the forest, searching for Snow White. With nowhere to run, the bandits prepare for battle. Swords clash, arrows fly, and the fight intensifies. Jonathan urges Snow White to escape, but she refuses. "I won't run." The battle rages on, but just as a soldier takes aim at Snow White with an arrow, Jonathan leaps in front of her. The arrow pierces his chest. Snow White cries out in anguish as he collapses in her arms. Desperate, she takes him back to the dwarves, begging them to use their magic to save him. They work tirelessly, tending to his wound. He weakly mutters his final words, until suddenly, to everyone's astonishment, he takes a deep breath and opens his eyes. The cottage erupts in celebration. They sing, dance, and rejoice through the night. But as dawn approaches, Jonathan tells Snow White he must leave. Though her heart aches, she understands. Before he departs, she removes her necklace and presses it into his hand. "This will bring you luck," she whispers. Jonathan holds her gaze for a moment, then disappears into the forest. Snow White watches him go, knowing that their journey is far from over. Jonathan wanders through the night, unaware of the trap waiting for him. The queen's soldiers ambush him, capturing and dragging him to the palace. When the queen sees the necklace around his neck, the one Snow White gave him, she realizes he is close to her. Smirking, she orders him imprisoned. Taking the necklace for herself, she retreats to her chambers, where she begins crafting a powerful magic potion. Slowly, an apple forms from the bubbling concoction, infused with dark sorcery. With the spell complete, the queen transforms into an old woman, cloaked in black, and vanishes into the night. As Snow White and the dwarves prepare for the day, she tells them she must return to the palace. She needs to uncover the truth about her father. Though saddened, the dwarves wish her luck, hoping she will return safely. Just as they part ways, the disguised queen arrives at the cottage, knocking on the door. Snow White, expecting Jonathan, rushes to open it, only to find an old woman standing before her. "I bring a message from Jonathan," the woman croaks. Snow White hesitates, but when the old woman shows her Jonathan's necklace, her heart sinks. "Jonathan has been captured by the queen," the old woman continues, "but I can help you. The queen is wicked, but this apple holds great power. One bite, and you will gain the strength to defeat her." Snow White, overwhelmed with emotions, hesitates. The animals in the house sense danger and frantically rush outside, trying to alert the others. But Snow White, desperate and trusting, takes the apple and bites into it. Instantly, pain surges through her body. Her vision blurs, her breath shortens. She collapses to the ground, lifeless. The queen, victorious, watches her fall and lets out a wicked laugh before vanishing into thin air. Before the others can reach her, it is too late. Snow White lies motionless, and sorrow fills the air. In the dark prison, Jonathan and the soldier who betrayed the queen sit in chains. They begin to talk, reflecting on how they both met Snow White and how she had changed their lives. Determined not to let her fate be sealed, Jonathan pulls at the chains binding him to the wall. He feels a small crack form. The soldier notices and joins in, both of them pulling with all their strength. The wall gives way, and they manage to break free. Grabbing what they can, they flee the castle, determined to reach Snow White before it's too late. Jonathan arrives in the forest and finds Snow White's lifeless body. Tears well in his eyes as he kneels beside her. Gently, he leans down and kisses her forehead. A spark of magic flows through the air. Slowly, Snow White's fingers twitch. Her breath returns. Her eyes flutter open. Gasps of astonishment echo around them. The dwarves and the bandits rejoice, embracing her as she rises. With renewed determination, Snow White and her allies gather. It is time to take back her kingdom. A quiet afternoon settles over the village. A figure in a red cloak approaches the palace gates. Whispers spread through the town as people recognize her. One by one, the villagers join her, marching alongside her toward the castle. At the palace gates, the soldiers refuse to let her in. The queen emerges, her cold eyes meeting Snow White's. "I believe you've been looking for me," the queen taunts. Snow White steps forward. "You murdered my father. You stole the kingdom from us. Now, we're here to take it back." The queen smirks and conjures a crystalline sword. "You've always wanted this," she says, handing the weapon to Snow White. "Go on, strike me down." Snow White grips the sword but hesitates. She refuses to become like the queen. Seeing her reluctance, the queen wrenches the sword back and orders the guards to seize her. One soldier is handed a knife. "Kill her!" the queen commands. "Make them all watch." The soldier steps forward, blade in hand. Snow White, instead of struggling, looks him in the eye. "You were once a farmer," she says softly. "You were not born a soldier. This is not who you truly are." Her words reach deep into the hearts of the soldiers. They look at each other, remembering their past lives, who they were before the queen twisted them into her pawns. One by one, they lower their weapons and turn to face their ruler. "We remember," they say. "We will not obey you anymore." The queen, enraged, raises her staff to strike, but a rebel fires a crossbow, shattering it in her grasp. Defeated, she stumbles back into the castle, rushing to her mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall," she pleads desperately. "Who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror's voice is calm. Beauty comes from within. Snow White's heart is pure, and that is why she is the fairest of them all. Furious, the queen smashes the mirror, but as the glass shatters, a dark force engulfs her. Her body twists into a blackened, crumbling form before she is sucked into the broken mirror's reflection. With one last scream, she vanishes into the void, leaving behind nothing but silence. Snow White watches as the darkness fades. The kingdom erupts in celebration. The people rejoice as their land is restored to its former glory. Snow White stands before them, not just as a princess, but as their true queen. Peace has finally returned. If you enjoyed this recap, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.